So we're going to look at branched alkanes in this video. Last video we saw how to name straight chain alkanes, something like a butane which had 4 carbon atoms. The given name is but and the family name is ane. This video we're going to try to learn how we can name an alkane like this, which has an extra portion jutting out from the main carbon chain, which is of 6 atoms, a hexane derivative. Before we can do that, let's talk about how alkanes behave when they act as substituents. By definition, a substituent is a group that replaces a hydrogen in an organic compound, which is this extra portion on this diagram. It is represented by a symbol R. The naming is still similar. The prefix comes from the number of carbon atoms, which is our given name, and the suffix is -il, which is the family name. So alkyl. Methane, if it loses the one hydrogen, becomes the methyl group. This half line with no hydrogen there is a potential site for bond formation. On its own, the methyl group is not a stable compound. It reacts very quickly and must attach itself to another alkyl group. The name is meth plus -il, methyl. Similarly, from an ethane, if you remove one hydrogen, you get an ethyl group. Eth plus -il, ethyl or ethyl, depending on which part of the world you are in and what kind of pronunciation you would like to use. Now, as long as we are only removing one hydrogen in both methane and ethane, it actually does not matter which hydrogen is removed. You can try to do this for yourself and convince yourself. They are all equivalent hydrogens. But in some cases, it will matter which hydrogen is removed from the alkane. Let's take an example of that. For example, in a propane, you've got 2 different kinds of hydrogens. We have the hydrogens that are on the terminal carbon atoms, both sides. They are equivalent. All of those 6 hydrogens are the same. Any one of them being removed creates the same alkyl group, the propyl group. But the hydrogens attached to the second carbon atom, the one in the middle, are different from these orange hydrogens. And if you remove one of them, what you have now formed is not the same as the alkyl group formed earlier. This is a different alkyl group. Again, take a moment to convince yourself of the truth of this statement. This is called the propyl group, whereas this must specify which hydrogen has come out. Where would this side chain attach to the main chain? This is called the prop2-yle, or a common name for this is isopropyl. Now, depending on your class, your teacher will tell you if she wants you to learn the common names or not. Also note that there are no line diagrams for the alkyl groups on their own. They show up as part of a line diagram for a compound. These are reaction intermediates. Here, the methyl group is a substituent, 1 carbon. In this diagram, you have the same long chain and you have 1, 2, 3 carbon atoms. So the substituent here is a propyl group. Taking the same carbon chain, you have a side chain, the substituent, which also has 3 carbon atoms, but this is an isopropyl group or a prop2-yle substituent. This tells me that the carbon from which the hydrogen was removed was the second carbon in a propane. So now let's go back and talk about the structure we'd started with at the beginning. So here you've got a 6 carbon chain, which tells you that the given name would come from hex. And the family name is ane because they are all single bonds. And you have this substituent, this extra portion, which is 1 carbon long. So this becomes a methyl group. And this is what we are calling the title, like a Mr. or Miss to someone's name. So when we put all of that together, the total name becomes the substituent, which is attached at the second carbon atom, to methyl, the given name hex, family name ane to give me 2-methylhexane. Note the hyphen here between the number and the letters, and note that we do not capitalize the first letter of the name. Between the methyl and the hexane, you can either write them together, join the words, or give some space. Usually people find that when handwriting, it is better to give some space so it's easier to read.